So it is, you know, we thought that our complaints and excuses are a big bad thing, but they're not. It's like pay attention to it. You know, it's your biggest gift is what is it you're complaining about and what is it you're really making an excuse about. And so that's why I put those two things on the bottle to really help me pay attention as much as possible to everything that I make a complaint about and every excuse I make in my life, because it's like if I'm making a complaint, then it's a recognition of a problem. If I recognize the problem, then I know I have the solution. But I need to transform that problem into the solution. And every time I make an excuse, is an excuse just an excuse? You know, is it really an excuse or just something that you're making an excuse about in order for you not to experience the solution of it? We tend to think, you know, the solution is out there, but it's actually inside you. You are making your own excuses. And I'm sure you probably noticed that you really don't like people making excuses. There are no excuses, you know, so, but it's something we all do. So, and it's something that we all try to avoid, but it's not like, let's look at what excuses you have. And are these excuses really true? And how can I transform those things? So then that's where we go into this a lot of heavy science of how to transform a problem into a solution. And I'll try and really condense it. There's a lot of sciences, but I think that's the problem why this information isn't getting out is because it's like you have to study quantum physics. And, you know, the average person can't understand quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and it's like, okay, it's so friggin' scientific that how does it actually relate into the real world? You know, and we're starting to have some scientists that are slowly relating it to our world, but it's still extremely technical that the average person really doesn't make any sense to it. So I think that's probably more my purpose is try to dumb it down as much as possible, but it ultimately is going to be okay, you have to have sort of just trust it, you know, see if it works. And, you know, if it works for you, then maybe, you know, there's something to it, and then you can get into the scientific reasons. But it's like that's why you have doctors is they go out and get the education and then they tell you their advice. Basically all aspects of reality are our beliefs, and our beliefs create our rules, and our rules create our actions, and our actions create our diseases. And this stuff is so freaking wild that it actually will cure every illness, um, every disease, because every mental illness, it will cure every addiction, it will cure every single thing, every problem that you can possibly imagine. And that is the wildest thing, and it's so freaking wild. People won't believe it's true, and just because you won't believe it, you won't go down that path of even trying it. But ultimately, how we're perceiving our reality is through what we believe. So you have to, you know, big time, get rid of every one of your belief systems and formulate new belief systems. So there is a science that says there's an information field. If you kind of notice that if you ask a question, doesn't an idea just sort of pop into your mind? Where did that come from? The information field. And it's a matter of asking good questions. So basically, every problem that you have is look at it as a thing, a really live thing that you can't communicate with it because it's wrapped inside you. The problem is inside you. So you need to take that problem outside of you and just recognize it as it's something separate from you, and you can actually communicate with it. And then the goal is just to constantly ask it what it wants. And it'll tell you, you know, don't, if you have a problem, don't you know what you want and you're asking the universe to give it to you? Well, if your problem is you and you take it out of yourself and your problem wants something, then it's your job to give it what it is it wants. And ultimately, whatever you give the problem, you know, the big bad evil, you know, what Satan, you know, like if we ever had that conversation with Satan and find out what it wants, I mean, that's the big scariest thing right there. We don't talk to Satan because it's like he'll guide you down the wrong path. And it's going to be the same thing that um, if you talk to your problem wants something. And it'll sound like Satan, you know, but you got to understand that that problem is you, and you, while you're experiencing that problem, want something. Um, but you're dealing with a lot of insanity within yourself. So while you're communicating with the problem, and while it's going to be perceived as like a Satan thing, the communication you have with your problem is you have to do some reasoning with it. A good example that I've seen that was really, really wild, and I think it will wake everybody up to how you give your problem what it wants, is this smoking addiction that I'm dealing with. I'm asking it what it wants, and what it wants is to see me dead. And it's like, well, why do you want to see me dead? And it's a process of trying to understand it. Use like a psychology, a doctor, or a parent, a mother, parent. If your child says, I just want to kill you, wouldn't you want to find out why your child wants to kill you? Like constantly ask why questions. Why would you do this? Why? Because if you're asking why questions, you're finding out the reasoning of it. So it's like, my smoking addiction wants me dead. And it's like, why? And it's like, because I want you to experience a peaceful experience, and this world is not peaceful. So, if you were dead, then you would experience peace. And it's like, no, can't you experience peace in a different way? Can't you experience peace through this life experience? And the problem, you use it through your intuition, that voice in your head. And in order to do that, in order to use your intuition effectively, you have to put yourself in a state of peace and calmness, and then ask the universe these questions. Ask your problem those questions. If you are asking them out of anger and fear, then when you ask the problem, or when you're perceiving anything, um, the information field will give you all the wrong answers, because you're looking at it from a fear base. So you can't look at it from any fear. You have to look at it from a peaceful, loving perspective, so that when you hear through your intuition, the voice that just comes in your head, that voice that says, oh, this is kind of a wrong thing, or oh, just do that. The voice that you keep talking to yourself about that makes you decide what to do next. I mean, we all have this voice in our heads. That voice in your head is your full potential, and it's trying to talk to you. But, we've been made to suppress that voice and just go with the flow, go with the matrix, go with everything that's wrong in our universe, go with all of the attachments that are making hell happen on earth. But if we started listening to this voice in our head, the one that's trying to guide us down the right path, then you'll find out your full potential. You'll find out exactly what your purpose is in life. But you got to understand that you are a peaceful, loving being. Every single one of us are the same. We are all love and peaceful beings. And when we don't see that, it's because we are lacking it. So while you're communicating with your problem, get yourself in that state, a love and peaceful state, and start communicating with it. And allow it to be a process, and allow it to be an understanding. And you really do have to see that you need to teach your problem something. You need to give your problem something that it's lacking. And then that's where you're starting to develop your growth. And then you'll start to see and notice that you are repeating a lot of beliefs, a lot of words, a lot of, you know, with my smoking, I used to say, you know, every time I quit, something bad happens. So I had to make different associations, and I had to say, every time I quit, something great happens. I had to say quitting smoking is impossible. So now I have to say, hey, quitting smoking is just the easiest thing in the world. I had to see and start noticing what I replay in my brain all of the time, and start turning that around into something completely different, and something that's, the universe is not going to be in agreement with. They're going to say that's a little crazy. But you have to reprogram your own brain to hear the voices that you want to hear, that end up unfolding the solutions that you want to experience. And you can learn more about that through communicating with your problem. And your problem, this is the unknown problem, is our complaints and excuses. We think everything's causal from outside, but they're actually caused from us ourselves. And we're not listening to our intuition, and we're not listening to our higher selves, and we're not being the peace and love that we want to experience while we're trying to push everybody else to do what we want them to do. So I hope that part helps. Please ask more questions if I've not made it very clear, because I'm trying to learn how to communicate this in the simplest way possible. But I think if you drink out of those bottles for a good 2 months, you'll see a massive change in your reality. You should see a big change just in recognizing that this is possible, because as soon as you start feeling, I got a direction, then it'll work. And the more you can really pay attention to what you focus on when you drink it, like there is a medicated way of using that, and that's by really paying attention to it. Or you can just have it as a subliminal message that, just waking up in your day and filling up those bottles sets your day. It will make you make a shift. And you don't necessarily even have to work at it by it making a subliminal message to you as you drink those bottles. But you can do it by really, really paying attention to what you're doing, and that will that will speed things up even faster for you. So I hope that helps. Ask questions if it doesn't. Peace out.